Hey, hold on before we
All right, we're starting.
Oh, okay.
Welcome back, double teamed fam. How are we doing today? If you're watching YouTube, I'm wearing the same pants I wore last time whenever we recorded at home. Don't fucking judge me. These are a different color, so.
It's also been like 3 weeks since that recording. They've been washed since then.
Has it been that long? Maybe like 4 weeks?
I mean,
I swear to God, Tiesto.
It's been a long enough time where it's fine if you wear the same pants.
Look at him.
Tiesto! Get down! Get down!
Our fucking cats are testing our patience. I will say, you saw me tweet this if you're on Twitter, but I did actually, become an adult on Sunday, and I hired a housekeeper.
Okay, I was like, wait, where are you going with this? Okay, I was like, I didn't know. What do we do?
Because we clean every Saturday, and I fucking hate cleaning. And finally, I was just like, I want to know what it's like to have a housekeeper, have someone else clean the house. It was so nice. It was 2 ladies. They came in. They were cleaning everything. Nikki and I got to do some, we did our own laundry, and then we hung up some shit. I did a little DIY project in the guest bathroom. I basically like took all of our Polaroids and like put them on little strings on the wall, and it's so cute. Anyways, so it was really nice to hire a housekeeper. It was pretty affordable, 10 out of 10. I'm going to do it once a month. So
I enjoyed it.
I've already scheduled her for March.
Other than that, man, not a lot has been going on.
I wanted to do today's episode I might cry, it's on a hard subject. But we don't have to get into it right. Do you have anything else to talk about? No.
I was going to say, I could talk about Thursday night.
What was Thursday night? Oh, yeah.
Thursday night, Cami and I had a lot of fun. It was actually the first night in like a 2-week span where I had sex again, and I was pleasantly surprised. Because it's been a really long time since I've had sex.
It was 2 weeks.
In
public.
Well, not in public, okay, but like it was in the bathroom stall of a club.
I've never done that. I actually kind of want to.
It was so.
That's a fantasy.
Let me set the scene. Okay. I don't know why. Well, okay, I'd gone 2 weeks without sex just because like, I don't know, scheduling conflicts. And so it just, for 2 weeks, it just didn't align to have sex. And I remember even before I left the house, I like just kind of threw my head back and I was like, I'd really like to have sex tonight. That would be great because I fucking
dear universe
needed to.
And it's me again.
Yeah, lo and behold, it fucking delivered. So we ended up going out. Our friend threw this event in LA. It was like the day after Valentine's Day.
Which we just need to give her a shout out because our friend was just like throwing this little event at Winston House in LA. And she DM'd Disco Lines.
Who's a pretty big DJ.
Yeah. And was like, hey, will you come DJ at this thing? And he was like, yeah, sure. He fucking brought Zoo.
Who's also a huge DJ.
Dombreski.
Also a huge DJ.
Shipwreck. Wax Motif. Goodfella. To fucking Winston House on a Thursday night. I was like...
It was the most LA thing. And that's what
I was flabbergasted. Also, I want to really... I'm laughing at, like, we were at the pregame before the event, and some of the DJs were at the pregame, and I don't know what Shipwreck looks like. I've listened to their music a time or two, but, and at one point, we're all getting in the car, because everyone's leaving the house to migrate to the venue, and we're getting in the car with my friend, and I'm like, which ones are Shipwreck? And her windows are down, and she's like, shush, they're right in front of my car. I was like, oh. But anyways, so
we went to this event and it was a ton of fun. I ended up running into the guy that I've been hanging out with occasionally. And we had a great time and it was super fun. And at one point we like both went to the bathroom, and then when we both got out of the bathroom at like the same time, I was, inebriated and horny, as was he, I assume. Anyways, and I was like, do you just want to go in the women's bathroom and bang? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. There was no one in there. There were 2 stalls. We went into the big stall. And then, it was a quickie for sure. And then by the time that we left the stall, there were these 2 girls in there and they were like, oh,
What happened?
Yeah. And then we stayed at the venue for a little bit longer, which was a lot of fun. And then we decided to leave. And when we were walking back to his car, we ran into this dog that we weren't sure if it had a home. Luckily, we found its owner. And then
Why is this relevant?
I was just explaining how, like, it was just a very interesting night. Not where I expected the night to go at all.
I spent $22 on a tiny espresso martini. I never want to do that.
Yeah,
again.
I spent $22 on that tiny espresso martini as well. And I was like, what the fuck is way too expensive for
It
that?
was great though, because we went to, and I actually, you know what, and I don't like mixing shrooms and alcohol, because I had the little espresso martini, and then at the pregame, my friend and she and I took shrooms together. And like the next day I just wasn't feeling that good, and I'm like, is it the shrooms and the alcohol mix? Do we have any other stories?
Anyways, all I'm saying was I was just glad that I got fucked. And it was a really great night. And it was one of those nights, it was like a very LA night, you know? Like, you go out thinking like, oh, it's just going to be like fun, casual. No, fucking disco line shows up. You have sex in the bathroom. You know, the guy you're seeing, his ex is there, and now you meet up with her, and you're just like, what the fuck? So it was a lot to unpack. But at the end of the night, I just remember sitting in the car and thinking I was very grateful for that night.
It was a fun night, yeah. I stayed out, went home at 2. Had a great time.
Yeah, I think I got to bed pretty late. So yeah, that was my evening. But other than that, been keeping it pretty chill. I feel kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie. Now, do you want to jump into what you were wanting to talk about?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll give some context as to why we haven't been the most social.
Y'all have heard me talk about my ex-fiancé on the pod for a long time now. You know, I started the podcast just a few months after he and I ended things. And a few weeks ago, I'm sorry, there will be probably a lot of crying. But I want to talk about this and I want to honor him. A few weeks ago, he committed suicide. And, sorry, trigger warning. Probably should have said that before. And it's been really hard. I found out the day after. And I remember we were recording an episode with Steph, and I kind of talked about, and I was talking about him in that episode a little bit, because I was talking about his alcoholism and how that affected me. And then the next day I wake up to a text that he's gone. And I didn't realize just how bad it would hit me. I'd already been having kind of a really weird December or January, just because of me catching feelings for my neighbor and that being a really complicated situation, and I was already just feeling like really like off. I wasn't feeling like myself. And that kind of like made me like start to pull back, and I was like just having a lot of mental struggles. Going to Dallas kind of like put me in a little bit of a depression, and I didn't like being there, and I don't know why. Like, it felt so off being there too, and I've felt off for half of December and most of January. And then like just the cherry on top to that pile of shit was my ex committing suicide, and it's been really hard for me. He should be here. He should still be here. And I know that he had a lot of mental health struggles. And I know that it, you know, when he and I were together, like, it took me a while to see it, but, you know, he struggled a lot. And I thought this past year that he had been doing better, and, you know, he found a partner and he had a daughter, and I was really happy for him, and I thought that he was doing well. So to hear this news was just really shocking. And it just numbed me. Kind of just took me out of it a lot. And it's hard to be present when you're going through grief. I don't know if you've had grief in your life, who you've lost, to what degree it affected you. I mean, we all experience grief at some point in our lives. That's the shitty part, is we all come and go. And like, this was one of the first times I would say that it affected me so badly. So that's why I haven't been very present, and I have kind of left the podcast to Nikki for a little bit, just because it hasn't felt like I could give myself to y'all, or give myself to people.
I feel that. I mean, I remember when I was going through my divorce, I was very numb, and I like grinned and bared it for a long time because I didn't want to talk about it yet, and I think I was suffering at least a lot, behind closed doors. And, granted, that was a very different loss, but still one that affected me deeply. And yeah, I just remember, like, I didn't want to, it was hard to show up for myself. So it was like, showing up for other people was even more of a chore.
Yeah.
And it sucked.
Well, like, it just, I don't know. It feels weird to try to, I don't even know how to say it, like, live your life.
Yeah. Well, I think it shocked you. I think it put you in shock.
Yeah, but it also just felt like I couldn't enjoy things. I don't know. It's like a hard time, and it definitely made me go into a lot of introspection, and I've kind of already been like, what is life? Having an existential crisis like every day for like the past 2 months, and contemplating everything. And
it sucks because, like, we haven't seen him in a few years.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part is that, like, he was a big part of our lives for 4 or 5 years, and then go 3 years without seeing him, and then something like this happens and it just kind of knocks you back. And that was very interesting to experience because I went back and reread some of the messages that he sent, like some of the last conversations I had with him over text, which were probably the more recent ones were when we started the pod, and he had texted me saying that he listened to it and was very proud of us. And, even though he couldn't tell our voices apart, which I thought was interesting, he was really excited to listen to it, and I thought that was, like, so sweet of him. And I mean, during y'all's breakup, like, I definitely had my grievances with him, and
I mean, I will say this, like, our relationship was definitely not perfect, and we weren't perfect people. We were very broken people.
You're also very young when you knew each other.
No, we were. We were 23, 22, 23, 23, 24.
Early 20s.
But I will say this, because I feel like since our breakup, and I've said this on the pod before, I had a very hard time after he and I ended things, kind of remembering the love that we had. I spent a lot of days questioning what love we did have. What was it? Was it love? I don't know. And I remember I felt like that for quite some time after he and I broke up. And I'll never forget this. What was it? About a year and a half ago, I was hooking up with this guy, and he and I were talking about things, and I forgot what happened, but he had asked me a question and I had answered it. And for a moment, I remembered the love that I had for my ex-fiancé and what he and I shared. And like, I remember sitting in that moment and I was like, and like, it almost like took me back for a moment. And I was like, and I told the guy, I was like, that was interesting. That just made me think about like my ex-fiancé and like the love that we had for each other. And I felt very grateful that that question like brought that up for me. And then I haven't really given it much thought since. Like, I appreciated that moment and I was like, okay, so, you know, he and I did love each other. You know, those years after, like, it was just a lot of transformation and growth and healing and, you know, discovering my traumas and, you know, fixing all of that kind of took me out of it. And but then losing him, and his name was Daniel. I'm not gonna say his full name, but my ex-fiance's name was Daniel. He was a really loving person. He wasn't great at talking about his feelings. He had a lot of childhood trauma. But I remember that he and I chose each other every day. And I'll always be grateful for that. Because when I met him, I was feeling pretty hopeless in my life at that point. I had just graduated college, barely. Couldn't find a job I wanted. Had to move to Kansas because I needed to live with Nikki because I couldn't afford rent anywhere and I wasn't going to live with my parents. My confidence was really low. I was just getting out of depression that I had in college. And he chose me. He chose me.
That's what I was going to say, was that, like, you know, if there's anything that I could always see in, you know, your relationship with him, was how much he loved you. I could always see that, and I think,
and he did.
And that's what I was going to say about him, was that, like, I loved how comfortable he made you feel. You know, I remember the one time that you taught us, like, how he showed you he showed Cami, like, how to, like, if she had, like, gas in her stomach, like, what to do to, like, push it out so that, like, you know, you're not, like, bloated and gassy. And, you know, like, things like that. And that's not the only example, but, like, you guys were so very comfortable with each other, and I think it was because
we literally pooped in front of each other. We didn't care. Like,
and that's what I'm saying, is that, like, I think you both saw the worst of each other and were like, hey, I'm still here. And, like, maybe, you know, I think at the end of the day, like, that's what we all want, is to be able to show someone our worst, and then they're still like, hey, I still love you, hey, I still want to have sex with you, hey, I still want to show up for you, you know, because, like, in thinking, and as we were talking about this just now, I realized that, like, how much I try to censor myself from showing my worst. How much I censor myself in trying to make sure that, like, I'm always, like, you know, the cool, calm, collected, has my shit together kind of person. And, like, and I really don't let a lot of people see, like, you're probably, you know, you and Cassandra are probably the two people that, like, I actually show my everything to, just about. I didn't even show everything to my ex-husband, because even then I think sometimes I was subconsciously always afraid that, like, it would be a reason for him to not choose me, even considering how safe he made me feel, you know, which was a lot more than anyone ever has. And so it's, you know, I remember the two of you, like, yeah, you weren't perfect, and yeah, you both had your issues and your shit that you needed to sort through. And yeah, I think you both met each other when you were in very low points of your life, but, like, I think that's the beauty in it, that you were both able to still, like, love each other in all of that darkness.
And he showed me a lot of love.
Yeah, no, he did. That's what I remember, at least. That's what I remember of him. He liked to have fun. He liked to rave like we did. My favorite memory of him, Cami and we were all at EDC, which is a rave, Electric Disney Carnival in Las Vegas. And Cami and I were a little too litty, leaning against some like bamboo pole. And somehow the guys, my ex-husband and Cami's ex-fiancé, had both found us, and they were having the time of their lives. And I just remember, you know, they're like checking on us, and they're like, "Are you guys okay? How are y'all doing?" And we're like, "We're getting there. We'll get up and walk with y'all." And so like we all got up and started walking towards Kinetic Field, which is like the main stage at this festival. And I just remember Daniel turns to Nate and he was like, "Jump on my back, dude." And Nate jumped on his back, and
they looked like this was the poster.
Yeah, I forgot the best part of this. They were both in these like American flag tiny short shorts with like bandanas across their foreheads, and like candy, which are those bracelets like all over their forearms. They looked like they were headed to like a 4th of July like gay pride parade. And so, you know, Daniel leans over, Nate jumps on his back, and Daniel starts jogging over to Kinetic Field while Cami and I are just following behind them, like just shaking our heads, laughing our asses off. And then we went to Excision, which was like one of the most memorable sets of my entire life. I'll never forget that set, but that is one of my most favorite memories with him. You know, he still knew, or he still was just so like playful and joyous in the times that he really allowed himself to be. And, you know, we had a lot of...
That's the thing is, like, he was so happy with everybody. He was always in, like, just such a good mood and just so, like, loving and caring towards everybody. And that's why I hate that it took me so long to see, like, just how...
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Affected he was inside.
A lot of us mask our pain because a lot of us have a hard time showing people our pain.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying, you know, how like I mask, you know, myself a lot too, and with with a lot of people, I think in some ways, just because like I want to put up a front, you know. And I'm not saying that I'm disingenuous. I think I've gotten a lot better at it over the years, if I'm being honest. I think now, like, I'm willing to be a lot more vulnerable and I open up a lot more. But, like, sometimes it's still hard for me because, you know, then I just worry that I'm giving people a reason to leave.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if for him, you know, maybe he struggled opening up because, like, he didn't want to give you a reason to leave or give other people a reason to leave his life just because he was struggling.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a universal experience for a lot of us, you know. It's hard to feel safe opening up, and it's hard to feel like, or, you know, it's hard to know who will stay when we do, and that just adds fuel to the fire, because then you're sitting there masking your pain, masking your, you know, your struggles, and then you're just drowning in your own mind, and that sucks.
Yeah. No, it does. I feel like that's for the past month or so. It feels like I've been drowning in a sense.
I remember, you know, during my divorce, I felt like I was drowning. And that was probably the only time I ever questioned if I wanted to still be on this earth. And because it just, the pain felt so unbearable. You know, and it, you know, I'm glad that I obviously found the strength to overcome everything, and I learned a lot about myself in the ways that I needed to, like, process pain and everything. But, like, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us find times where we're drowning in the pain, drowning in our thoughts, drowning in our minds, and you don't know your way out. And I mean, for me, my life raft has always been you, and you know that.
Yeah.
But it makes me sad that, you know, I wish we or someone could have been a life raft for him.
Me too. I was that's the hard part about suicide is you always want to know the why. You want to know why. Yeah, why. And I remember I was shortly after the funeral, I had a session with my therapist, and she was just kind of reminding me that, a lot of the times when someone wants to do that, they've already made that decision in their heads. They've already rationalized it, and, sometimes, like, there's no convincing them otherwise. And,
I remember someone said something to me that I found at least somewhat comforting, was that, sometimes at that moment they feel peace that they can finally release all that pain.
And I hope his next life is happier and easier, and he gets everything that he wants. Because, when I think back to him, despite the shitty ending that he and I had to our relationship, we had a good relationship. There was love, there was care, there was commitment. That was the first long-term commitment that I have known. And
I understand, though, like when you were saying earlier that you were questioning it, like, I think it's very fair at the end of a relationship when your feelings do shift and you go from, like, loving someone and, like, prioritizing them, and
it's very polarizing.
It is polarizing. Oh, it absolutely is. But you go from, loving them, caring for them, prioritizing them, everything, to, like, the complete opposite. And, like, that always, I don't know about you guys, but at least for me, like, it's always thrown me for a loop. It's like, for example, my ex-husband and I were together almost 10 years. 10 years of my life. And,
they
and that
become a part of your energy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like 10 years of, talking to them every day, having sex with them regularly, knowing all of their, ins and outs, and, like, their patterns, and their, how they think. Like, I remember there would be times I could just walk into a room and I would know, oh, he's in a bad mood. He wouldn't have to say a word. If I just, like, sometimes I would just be, like, feeling the energy. Sometimes I'd take one look at him and know. So other times, it was just like, you go from knowing someone so well, and then all of a sudden, I talk to my ex, like, every now and then. I don't want to have sex with him again. I don't talk to him all the time. I don't know him the way that I used to. I don't know what's going on in his day-to-day. I don't know, so it's just like, it's so crazy, and it does make you question, like, well, what was that? Like, how did I go from feeling this to feeling this? And it was the same, like with Calvin, for example. Like, I was so head over heels for well over a year, and then all of a sudden, poof, tables turn, and suddenly I'm like, okay, well, I really don't care what he's doing. Or, I wish him the best, but I'm not, like, sitting there, like, wondering or, like, wishing I was with him or anything like that. And it's just, like, that always throws me for a loop, and it always makes me feel, like, so... It makes me wonder, like, are my feelings fickle? Was that not what I thought it was? Was that not love? Was that not genuine? But then, yeah, I have my moments where I remember things, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it was that. In that present moment, it was that. And so, and I know for you, like, especially, considering, like, I remember, in your grieving process, you were surprised that it took you, or that it knocked you off your feet the way that it did. But I think just because 3 years went by doesn't mean that all of a sudden, like, that love wasn't there, or, the relationship that you two had, and, just because you hadn't seen him and hadn't interacted with him doesn't mean that something like that wouldn't affect you.
Yeah.
So, but it's still just very jarring, and it's very, like...
Well, like, that's the thing, is, for me, like, it felt like 3 years had gone by, and then it felt like it was just yesterday that I was with him. Finding out that he had died felt like I had just been with him. It brought back everything. It brought back all my happy memories of him. It brought back all the reasons that I loved him. It brought back everything. And that's...
Wait, I want to hear some of your happy memories.
I think I've told this story on the pod, but I think one of my happiest memories with him, and actually this kind of traumatized me a little bit. I'll get into the story, but basically, like, he proposed to me in Ireland. So we took a trip to Ireland. We had a wonderful time. We went to like 5 different cities, and he proposed to me on the cliffs of Moher, which, if you've ever been there, like, obviously, like, it's fucking terrifying. They're massive cliffs. And I remember driving down this tiny little road, and, you know, we were like questioning, the road was just minuscule. Like, they were questioning where the fuck we were going. We felt like we were lost, but we finally made it. And then it was muddy and it was raining, and we were like climbing the cliffs. And then at one point, like, you get to an area where it's like, you know, you can like go like off road, like the trail stops, but there's still more of the cliff that you can go see. So we do that, and we're like walking like very close to the edge. And at one point, like, he stops and he asks this couple to take a picture of us. And oh my God, he was on his way. I didn't realize what he was doing. We were just taking a picture at one point, and then the next moment he was like getting down on one knee, and he like slipped and caught himself like on my jacket, and I thought we were fucking falling from the cliffs, and I blacked out. I woke up, like, I came to, and he's like on his knee asking me to marry him, and I said yes. And it felt so like just like funny, but also like I was so traumatized by that like mere moment of feeling like we were free falling. And it was really special. I'll never forget that day. I really won't. I remember we walked around a little bit. And then later that night we went back to like our hotel. We were hanging out, and then we went to go get dinner, and then we got in the car and drove to another spot the next day. Yeah, he and I, like, we did a lot of adventures together. I'll never forget the day that, like, we brought home Rex. He went to go pick him up.
Who was their dog, just to clarify?
Yeah, Rex was one of our dogs. I'll never forget in our first apartment that we had together, he'd always be playing video games. That was his thing. He loved video games. And I would usually be watching TV, but I'd like go over to him and usually like hug him from behind while he was playing video games and like serenade to him. And like sing Berlin's Take My Breath Away. That's what I always serenaded to him. I'll never forget him trying to teach me how to drive a stick shift car. That went horribly wrong. Like, just terrible. I was so frustrated. We were like in our apartment complex parking lot. I barely had made it like 20 feet. I couldn't do it. And then I always just remembered like him. He was like a creature of habit. And every night he'd play video games. He'd have his pack of strawberry lemonade natty lights. And he'd play video games, and then he'd go outside with his little speaker and his beer and his cigarettes. And he'd sit on YouTube for fucking hours on end, petting the cats, smoking and drinking beer. And I would always just go out there with him and just hang out.
It was definitely a very Kansas life, because I remember that back porch. It overlooked the like half acre that they owned.
Yeah.
And
it was.
And
I
just remember Bubba, the cat, was just laying there, and like, you know, he'd be petting him, and it was very simple. But yeah, I think he was just happy to be in those moments.
But he liked it that way.
And I know, that's what I'm saying. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It took me a while to appreciate. Is that he, And I love my life here. I've loved, I used to be the one, or, typically I'm always booking shit and our schedule's always full, our calendar's always full. And I think over the past, even before Daniel's death, I want to say around after when we got back from Dubai, actually, was when I started looking at the way that I was constantly putting myself in things and realizing that I was just kind of exhausted of always feeling obligated to do something, and I just kind of wanted to slow down a little bit. So I've been trying to be more cognizant of keeping my schedule a little bit more open, having that room to just breathe and spend time by myself, and kind of slow it down a little bit,
while also still having fun and prioritizing our friends and maintaining a social life, which I agree. I think finding that balance has been very interesting for us,
but it's helped.
Yeah,
it's helped. And then I'm not gonna lie, with losing Daniel, it's just reminded me of just staying in the present, because you can plan.
Sure, you can plan.
Fuck planning. There's no point. It's a 6 month span of planning. That's it. I'm planning 6 months ahead, nothing more. There's no reason to go any further than that. Fuck a 5-year plan, because it's not. Your life changes so much. And I feel and that's the thing, is our lives have changed so much over the past 3 years. My life has changed so much since he and I left each other. So much. I've changed so much. And sometimes it just makes me feel
so out of control.
Yeah.
No, it's true though. I mean, I think COVID has taught us that as well, but it's fuck
that. No, the pandemic didn't teach me shit. I just hated masks.
Well, no, I was going to say no, but for me though, I was always someone that I had a 5-year plan. I remember I used to be the kind of person that wrote goals down for the next 2 to 5 years, and things like that. And I remember, especially when I was in my corporate job, I would do that. Especially for example, when I started selling airplanes, because I had 2 positions before I started selling airplanes. And when I started selling airplanes, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 years. And then I want to move into a VP role, and I want to have these ratings and blah, blah, blah by this. And yes, it's good to have goals, but starting a podcast, quitting my job, and, doing the things that I've done since then were never on my bingo card. And I think what I really learned, since the pandemic especially, is that no, you can't plan for shit. On top of that, you change and grow so much. And I don't know, maybe it's just you and I that have been transforming as much as we have, but I also know a lot of people that have also been going through a lot of intense transformations. But yeah, sometimes your mind starts shifting, and it makes you feel, or or your priorities start shifting, or you start finding more balance, or things come in and give you a new perspective. For example, him leaving has given us a whole new perspective on a lot of things. And it's just because what I would, in terms of perspective shifts, what I was thinking about when he was picking out a ring for you, I gave him so much shit for the one that he picked out, because I didn't think you were going to like it, and I wanted it to be perfect.
Nicole, I literally picked out that ring and told him to get it. I know.
I wasn't sure that you were actually going to like it. And this is me being my type A controlling bitchy self that I am, that I have worked to grow past. But I was so worried that it wasn't really the one that you wanted, and I gave him crap for it. And now when I think back to it, I'm why did I do that? Why was I throwing such a fit? Because I was so worried about it being so perfect for Cami that I didn't stop to take a step back, look at the big picture, and be it's fine. The ring is symbolic. It was a beautiful ring. I didn't need to give him shit for it.
I think I kept it.
I think there was another one actually that there's something with the ring I was giving him crap about because I didn't think it was going to be the right one. Maybe it was another one that he was looking at. Regardless, I'm in the grand scheme of things, that didn't matter. Why was I making such a big deal out of it? And so I'm trying to practice that more in my life as well now, but it's just but yeah, you grow and you learn and you go through experiences and all these things, and then you're just evolving. And so I think especially at the age where Cami and I are right now, there's just been a lot of fucking evolution, and it just makes you feel completely out of control. Like, planning is completely pointless. I don't have a 5-year plan. I'm not even sure I don't
even have a plan for 2024. And at the beginning of the year, I was just like, fuck it, we ball, we see what happens. And
let's see what happens, yeah. Because,
first few weeks were tough.
But, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, like, what can you plan, realistically?
But also just, like, I don't know, be present and tell the people that you love them. And that's the thing and that's one of the things that I was thinking about through all of this and in my grieving process. It's like, you know, nowadays there's that, you know, term love bombing and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no. If you feel, you know, obviously don't be toxic with, you know, say what you feel when you feel it. Say that you love someone, and it can never be too much. Because grief kind of teaches you, you know, don't leave things unsaid. I wish I don't know. I feel like the last time I talked to him, it was about our phone bill or the fact that, you know, my name is on the house that we bought together. I remember I used to, you know, and we'd be talking about things like the phone bill or whatever, and I would ask him how Sansa is, or which is our cat. I would ask him how he's doing, and, you know, but I wish I would have asked more. I wish I would have checked in more. You know, at the same time, I realized, like, that's not my responsibility. Like, he and I hadn't been together, but, you know, like, I know after him and I broke up, like, we both struggled, and it just
I wish
going through loss and going through grief just really, I don't know. I felt so scatterbrained, so numb, emotionless, but also emotional, stuck in the past, but also, and, you know, also just haven't felt sexy, haven't felt like I've wanted to open up to people or open up to anyone.
You know, I was going to say, I wish, because I don't know that I ever told him this, and it reminds me of something else, which I'll say. I wish I had told him, thank you for the partner that he was to you. Because I remember when you guys met. So my ex-husband and I had thrown, like, a party at our house. We threw, like, this party. We invited Cami. Well, she lived there, actually. We threw this party, and we invited Daniel. And I remember, like,
he brought a girl.
Yeah, he brought a girl. And which was funny because Nate and I were, like, hoping to hook the two of you up. So when he brought a girl, we were like, well, fuck, there goes our plan. But anyways, but I remember you guys, you know, met anyways, and I remember it wasn't that long afterwards that, like, we were at the gym or something, and you were talking about how, like, you weren't sure if you wanted to, like, go, like, out with him or something, and I was, like, kind of pushing you to do it and nudging you that way because, like, we thought you two would get along, and, you know, and then lo and behold it did, and, you know, that all happened, and then he was, you know, a part of our lives for the next, you know, 4 or 5 years, however long that was, and, you know, my ex-husband worked with him, so they had a really close relationship, and, like, but anyways, you know, especially, like, considering the ending of y'all's relationship, and then the time after that, like, I don't think I ever thanked him for being the partner that he was to you, because he was a great partner, you know, despite, you know, whatever issues y'all had, or, you know, whatever, especially the way that it ended. And what it reminds me of is, you know, I will admit, I'm very critical of your partners, and I'm very sorry. I am, because, like, I have very high standards for the person that I think you should be with. Because if someone's going to be with my perfect, amazing, wonderful sister, I want them to be the best person ever. And so I'm hold on, god damn it,
So much crying.
So much crying. I'm so sorry, guys. This is not I am so sorry.
It's been an emotional few weeks.
The fact that we're gonna put this up on YouTube.
Oh no. Blur our faces out when we cry. I do not have a cute cry.
I don't think I'm a cute crier at all. Anyways, I'm very critical of your partners, and that's something that I'm trying to work on, because at the end of the day, it is your decision who you date, your decision who you know, choose to be with, and I have no control over that. And while, yes, I want the best for you, it is your choice at the end of the day. And I need to respect that. And I try to keep my opinions to myself more and more. Trust me, guys, we've been to therapy about this anyways. Because at the end of the day, as much as I think I do, I don't know everything that's best for you. You know what's best for you.
Thank you.
But when it came to Mike, for example, Mike was another partner of yours that, like, you know, you were so head over heels for him, and I just didn't think, you know, that was ever going to work out. I constantly fought it. I you know, had a really strained relationship with him. And then, you know, you guys broke up, and, you know, we, you know, I don't know, we obviously, I don't talk to him a lot, or like we haven't seen each other a lot anyways. But then I remembered, especially around the time of when, you know, Daniel passed, I remembered how I never thanked Daniel for the ways that he showed up for you. And then I remembered all the ways that Mike showed up for you. You know, when Sammy passed away, he was there for you. And, you know, even during my divorce, there were times where he was there for me. And, you know, during you know, he supported the pod and, like, was always trying to give us ideas about stuff. And, like, you know, so even though I didn't always necessarily agree with y'all's relationship because I didn't think that long term it would last, like, I never gave him enough credit for the times that he was just a really good person to you and a really good friend, despite the romantic relationship that you guys had. So not long ago, I invited him out to go grab a drink. And
this is Mike, by the way.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah. So Mike and I went to a bar and we got a drink. And I remember I told him, I was like, I am so sorry for the way that I treated you sometimes. You know, simply because I didn't, you know, agree with y'all's relationship. And I'm sorry that I wasn't always the most supportive. And I told him that I wanted to thank him for the ways that he did show up for you and for the times that he was a really good person to you, and that I appreciated his efforts in that, and that I wanted to both apologize and show my gratitude, because, you know, you just never know if or when you're ever going to get that opportunity to right that wrong or to have that conversation. And it definitely has had me reflecting on, like, yeah, those the people that maybe I do owe apologies to. You know, there's one, I wish I could apologize to Travis for how confused I was at the end of our relationship, and to tell him that, like, I really did love him. You know, we weren't meant to be, but I really did love him. And I really did have a lot of gratitude for the way that he showed up for me when I was going through a really tough time. But anyways, the point of it there being is that, like, if there's ever anything that you feel is unsaid, like, just fucking say it. There have been so many text messages that I've sent to people, you know, when I'm, you know, in the middle of the night when I'm inebriated, and I remembered that, like, hey, I didn't do the right thing there, and I should offer an apology, or I didn't express my gratitude for what they gave me, and I want to express that gratitude. And so if Daniel's up there and he's listening, thank you for the partner that you were to my sister. Thank you. But it's true. Just say what you want to fucking say. And it sucks because, like, sometimes it's hard to say certain things. Sometimes it's hard to take accountability for the shit that you've done. Sometimes it's hard to even send that message because it feels so vulnerable, or to say that thing because it feels so vulnerable, and, like, you don't know how it's going to be received. But, like, just fucking say it.
I know this episode has been all over the place and we've cried a lot, and you probably weren't expecting to hear about some random dude named Daniel that passed away.
But he was a really great guy.
But he was a great guy. And he
will be very, very missed.
He will. And he was, during that time in my life, he was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
And I will always love him for that. And I wish he was here. And I wish he was living out his life with his daughter and having the, you know, and healing and having the best time and getting to know himself more and more. So.
And if you're ever at a place where you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it.
Yeah.
We all struggle. We all go through shit. And I'm not saying that to like invalidate anyone's specific feelings or to say that like, oh, you know, just because everyone else goes through it doesn't mean that my pain isn't, you know, that makes my pain any better.
But like that's the thing, is that like your pain is your pain.
Yeah.
And it sucks because, you know, we all never know. And I mean, you hear this 1,000 times, but it's true. It's like you don't know what people are battling inside. You don't know what they're going through. You know, their emotions. No person, I mean, we can all like sympathize and empathize and like be in similar situations. And, you know, for example, you can have someone that went through the exact same thing I did, where they lost, you know, an ex-fiancé or an ex-spouse to suicide, and, you know,
or to anything
or whatever. And you don't know if the feelings match. You don't know how it affects you or how it affects them. And it's like everybody just goes through things differently, or the same in whatever magnitude. And then life is messy. Things suck. You know, things can get shitty.
We don't always get it right.
We fuck up. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So then it's like, you know, if you're
not alone in that.
You're not alone.
Oh man, I had a thought. It left me. What was it? Shit.
But I mean, for me, the past few weeks, I've not felt like myself. I've found it difficult to be present or in my body. And if anyone else is going through grief, I don't know, just give yourself grace. I have been. And and I tweeted this, I don't know, earlier today, maybe yesterday, I can't remember. But I was like, I almost just kind of like want to do like, I have been like having sex with my neighbor in the past 2 months. But I kind of want to do a celibacy challenge, kind of like Nikki did, just to see like, okay, maybe that'll help me reset.
It was really good, I will say that. And on top of that, you know, the universe really delivered when I came out of it. So trust in that. But it was very healing. What I was going to say though was, okay, so this is all kind of reminding me, I don't know if any of you have watched, it's a limited series on Netflix called One Day.
Oh, it's so cute.
It's very good. It's also
I just watched it the other day and bawled my eyes out.
Yeah.
I thought of Daniel the whole time.
Fucking sad at the end. And if you haven't watched it yet and you want to skip ahead, and you don't want to know the ending because I'm about to spoil it, go ahead and do so. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but maybe skip ahead at least like a minute or two. But I just remember, after I watched the ending, I saw, because it's based on a book, and I saw like how the author had written the part where this character dies in the book. And when I read it, it like hit me. And it also made me think of Daniel. But it said, you know, he'll worry, she thought. And then something else. And then she said, and then the character dies. And everything she ever thought or felt died with her. And that made me realize, kind of like what I was saying earlier about feelings, you know, like that alone gives so many perspectives. Everything Daniel ever thought or felt has left with him. And the only, you know, remains of it are, you know, maybe like what you say here in this, you know, pod, what his partner, you know, felt, or, you know, whatever lives with her, whatever, his daughter's too young, but whatever, you know, remains with her. And it's like, but that's all that's left. And, you know, like I think about me, for example, or like what it reminded me of was that like everything I think or feel is like on this podcast. And, you know, I don't know how long Spotify and iTunes will be around, or like where any of this data will ever go as things continue to progress. But I was like, it was just such an interesting thing to think that, like, you know, my feelings and my thoughts are like immortalized in this. All the journals that I have upstairs in my office of all the things that I've thought and felt, you know, that's all like encapsulated there. And but those are like the only other places. Other than that, it's like left with like the people that you share your feelings and your thoughts with. And so it's like, so share those feelings and those thoughts, because like that's how like you live on, or like your energy or whatever, you know, if you care to. But yeah, it just kind of made me sad that, like, you know, that's what we have left of him, is just like our memories and like, you know, the things that we remember feeling because of that person. And it does remind me of one thing that, like, I don't know if I've ever said this before, I've seen this quote 1,000 times. And it's always so fucking true. Like, you will always remember how someone made you feel.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have talked about that before. I don't remember what my ex-husband's dick felt like physically. I don't remember what exactly the sex felt like physically. I don't remember, like, sometimes
Actually, I was trying to remember that too. I was like, do I remember having sex with Daniel?
Yeah, sometimes I don't even like remember what it was like to like hug him or kiss him, my ex-husband. But what I do remember is how he made me feel. What I remember is like the times that he made me feel safe, the times that like it, you know, in his presence, it just felt like a big sigh of relief because I knew someone was there for me. Or, you know, like those are the things that I remember. And, or the times that like, you know, like I don't remember exactly what the jokes were or whatever it was, but like I just remember laughing with him all the time. And just like the times that we would just like be like so out of breath, like choking on our laughter because whatever was happening was like so funny. And the two of, because I always thought he was really funny, you know, so it's like that's what like lives on. And so yeah, I think that's why it's good to think about how you make people feel, be vulnerable, be open, even if it's really fucking scary. Yeah,
I will say this with Daniel's funeral. That's why I wasn't on that Cody episode, is because I was in Kansas. The funeral was way too religious. Daniel would have hated that, but I think his family put on it. It was a very nice service. I think he would have liked that. And you know, it was Methodist. The minister, pastor, I don't know. She said some really nice words. Though some areas I was like, I don't think Daniel would have liked that. But anyway, my favorite part, I loved seeing like the photos of like him and his partner and his kid, and like those were really beautiful. They had his like military uniform out, which I remember I used to sew that thing all the fucking time. It was also really difficult for me to be at that funeral without Nicole, but thankfully Nate was there. And Nate held my hand and supported me, and because I was having a near panic attack. But anyway, at the end of the funeral, you know, and all of his military buddies were there. We're out in the parking lot. All the guys are like talking shit and roasting Daniel. Which was hilarious, and I think he would have loved that. I remember these two guys were talking, and this one guy, which was like one of Daniel's like old friends, it was a really weird interaction. He like came up to one of the guys, gave him a quick hug, and then just like jetted out, and we were all like, is that one guy? And the two guys that were talking were like, I think we should go beat him up for Daniel. And I was just laughing at that. And then someone brought out a giant cooler of those fucking strawberry lemonade natty lights, and we all popped one open for him. And I think that's what he would have wanted, was all of us roasting him and drinking his favorite beer. And yeah, so
that definitely made me think about, like, you know, not to sound morbid, but like what I'd want.
Oh, it definitely made me think about what I want my funeral to look like.
I know.
I will write out an entire script on how I want my
And since we're going to
celebration
go
of-
at the same time, I think
exactly
we should write it
celebration of
out.
life. It's going to be a big deal. So I'm going to make sure that I actually write something down. Think about how you want to be
Honored
in your funeral.
And
And
that's so fucking morbid to say, but it's so true because
no, but it's true because I sat there the whole time and I was like, during the, it's like I could, and I don't know if anyone, if you've done the same, if you've lost someone, but like, I talk to Daniel sometimes in my head all the time and I pretend like he's right next to me. And I know the parts that he would have loved of his funeral. And I hope he felt loved.
I'm sure he did. But yeah, you wanted to be.
I talked to him all the time and I told him I hope he liked his funeral.
But yeah, you and I are going to go at the same time, hand in hand, at the age of 87.
94.
No.
94.
What are we going to do till 94?
I don't know, but anyways,
and so we need to co-collaborate.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I don't know. If you're going through grief, I'm here for you. It's hard. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. And sometimes I don't know who I am, but each day has gotten a little bit better. So keep going
And tell people how you feel.
'cause you're worth it.
Yeah.
We all are. So
Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
I'm so sorry.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to cut like half of this shit out.
Oh, fuck. I don't even know if we made sense.
No, I'm not sure that we did. But it was honest.
Yeah, but it's...
And now I need to go probably find a therapist and...
Well, we have to be somewhere in 15 minutes, so actually we need to get going.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
We love you. Thanks for tuning in. I have started showing up in recordings now, so you'll see me again.
You only disappeared for one. Okay, relax.
No, but we did that one recording where I just like barely talked.
Oh, yeah. You were kind of checked out of that one. I know. I've been having to...
I haven't been on anything barely, so.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll see you next week, guys.
Love you.
Oh, I think we're going to... Or am I going to a play party this coming weekend?
I think I am too. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
We might. So we might have something actually fun and exciting to talk about, and obviously guests. But anyways, yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great day. And tell the people you love them that you love them.
Yes.